Part 17. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, X. Press 11. Chapter 161. Getting off the car, Zhang Lingzi saw a Yinhe palace that was almost restored to a 1-to-1 ratio. The reason why we add near in front of it is because if you look closely, you can still see some differences. After all, the real Yinhe palace has stood for more than 1,000 years. Even though it has been carefully repaired in the past dynasties, it still has a sense of historical vicissitudes. But this imitation of the Yinhe palace looks much newer. You can even smell the faint smell of paint, and it lacks the heaviness. However, after a quick look, she still had to say, "It really looks like it." Tong Yu then got out of the car and laughed when she heard her words. Well, since the imitation of Yinhe Palace in the film and television city was completed, more than 90% of the palace dramas and court dramas were filmed here. At first, many viewers thought it was taken at the Yinhe Palace Museum. It was not until the tourist access was opened that they realized that there was such a 1-to-1 replica. "You will also be here for a while." Made a bid. As soon as she stood still and said a few words, Zhang Lingzi saw a girl wearing a red baseball cap walking out of the front side door. After taking a look, she ran straight towards them. "Hello, Teacher Zhang, I am Empress Yuan Zhao production assistant, just call me Zioxia and I'll pick you up." Zhang Lingzi glanced at the words Empress Yuan Zhao embroidered on the baseball cap she was wearing, then at the work badge hanging around her neck, and nodded slightly. "Hello." Xiao Xia immediately breathed a sigh of relief and said, "You three, please come with me." It took almost 5 minutes to walk from the parking lot to the production trial location. After entering a courtyard with a vermilion gate, the air seemed to be several degrees hotter in an instant. The courtyard is very spacious. After all, it is restored to the scale of Yinhe Palace. Yinhe Palace was originally very spacious. But it can't withstand the crowds. From the crew of the production, plus the actors and assistants who have arrived, at a glance throughout the yard, almost all of them are busy people dispersed. It wasn't until Zioxia opened the door of one of the rooms again that Zhang Lingzi felt her ears became clearer. The inside is quite spacious, and the furnishings are familiar. There are 4 makeup mirrors placed against the wall. The makeup table is already filled with a dazzling array of makeup, but now only one seat in front of the makeup mirror is occupied. Zhang Lingzi met the look in the mirror. The other party couldn't help but wave and say hello first. "Hi, Sister 11, good morning. You were earlier." "I came here in my uncle's car. He had a meeting with the producer and some people in charge, so I just came over here to put on my makeup in advance. The costumes are the most troublesome. I hope I can make it in time for lunch." Tong Yu and Lu Zhengzheng followed in and saw Wei Minmin sitting in front of the dressing table and said hello. Wei Minmin was obviously more familiar with this place. Even though her face was still covered by the makeup artist, it didn't stop her from talking. "You all have a seat. Let's take a break first. By the way, there are drinks in the small refrigerator next to it. Sister 11, you sit at the dressing table next to me. From now on, when filming here, the crew will do their makeup here. The other makeup artist just went to have breakfast and hasn't come back yet, so you have to wait a moment." Zhang Lingzi looked in the direction of her finger. The dressing table and cosmetics were similar. The only difference was the name of the character in the play posted next to the mirror. "She is Zhang Yuan Zhao, the one next to Wei Minmin is Wei Fuying, next to Wei Minmin is Fu Qingshan, and further to the right is Zhang Ling'an. It seems that this dressing room is shared by the 4 of them." Wei Minmin noticed her gaze and explained, "There are many actors this time, and the courtyard can be modified at will, so there is no way to arrange a separate dressing room. It's good, I put on makeup for so long, and I still have someone to chat with when I'm bored." "Hee, I think so too. Sister 11 will be here to chat with me." After waiting for a while, a voice came from outside, "Teacher Shi, this way." Zhang Lingzi and Tong Yu Lu Zhengzheng both turned their heads to look at the door. She saw Shiman in casual clothes being brought over by Xiao Xiao's assistant, followed by several others, but she only saw the two at the front, an agent and an assistant. Tong Yu couldn't help but glance at Lu Zhengzheng, who was standing alone next to her. She sighs secretly that she is worthy of being a movie queen. Then he comforted himself, his artist is the first female artist. Shiman had just walked to the door and saw Zhang Lingzi sitting inside. When she looked over at her, she was stunned. Looking at Wei Minmin, who was already putting on makeup in the seat next to her, she then noticed the character's name posted next to the makeup mirror. Can't help but take a deep breath. It is impossible for two people to sit in the wrong seats, so there is only one explanation. It seemed that she won the guessing game with her agent yesterday, but she was also very complicated and confused. How did Zhang Lingzi defeat Su Qingmei and get the female lead? She didn't dare question Director Wei's choice, but she found it really puzzling. It seems that the answer can only be found in the coming days. Sister Man, Zhang Lingzi said hello first. Shiman had a smile on her face when she came back to her senses. We haven't seen each other for a while, and we are colleagues again. This time we are still mother and daughter. Wei Minmin's ears twitched and she caught a word, again. Zhang Lingzi glanced at her. I recorded a slow variety show with Sister Man before. Ah, why didn't I see it? This time it was Shiman, who had already walked to the dressing table and sat down, who replied, it hasn't been broadcast yet, but it will be soon. Then I probably don't have time to watch it. Thank God that our health director can leave time for everyone to eat and sleep. Shiman turned sideways and asked the makeup artist she brought to put her own cosmetics on the table. Director Wei's requirements for actors are indeed a bit high, but the quality of the finished film is also high. The harder it is, the harder it is. Teacher, she can bear it, so we juniors can't be too tired. Suddenly realizing that he was too busy talking to Shiman, Wei Minmin quickly looked at Zhang Lingzi again. Isn't that right, Sister 11? Zhang Lingzi nodded towards her. As long as you have time to eat and sleep. If she had to march hundreds of miles without eating or drinking like she did in her previous life, her current body would definitely not be able to bear it. Yes, our wish is so small, I hope Director Wei can satisfy it. Shiman pressed her hand on the dressing table with a little more force unconsciously. Although Wei Minmin and Zhang Lingzi only said two simple sentences, it can be seen at a glance that the relationship between the two is not bad. If she remembered correctly, the first time the two of them crossed paths was during the audition some time ago. How did you become so close in a short period of time? Noticing that Shiman looked over with a more probing look, Zhang Lingzi smiled calmly at her. There is a word called speculation. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 162. Teachers Shi and Teacher Zhang are here. Wei Xiao led the people behind him into the room with his hands behind his back. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that he was in a good mood. The people in the house stood up to greet him. Well, let me introduce you. The person next to me is the makeup director of our crew, Teacher Yun Ping Yun. Teacher Yun, I'll leave it to you to do the makeup for the leading actors in our crew later. Yun Ping looked like a man with an unsmiling and cold temperament. Faced with Wei Xiao's request, he only nodded lightly and said softly, it should be. The most important thing is to keep strangers away. Shiman glanced at Wei Minmin and Zhang Lingzi, who were standing next to them, and took 2 steps forward to say hello. I didn't expect Director Wei to invite Teacher Yun. Teacher Yun, long time no see. Yunping heard the sound and nodded to Shiman again, and responded, long time no see. Wei Xiao saw that the two of them had known each other for a long time and asked, have you collaborated before? They both nodded. Shiman smiled and replied, it's not just once. At the same time, she complimented smoothly, the makeup done by Teacher Yun amazes me every time. I haven't even done it yet, and I've already looking forward to it. The communication here was relatively harmonious, and Zhang Lingzi was suddenly touched on the arm by Wei Minmin. She turned around and looked over, and saw Wei Minmin holding a mobile phone in her hand. The screen of the mobile phone was facing her. What was displayed on it was a collection of costume makeup that the teacher Yunping had done before and a brief personal introduction. This girl should have noticed that she didn't recognize this teacher Yunping. After looking at it carefully for a while, she nodded to Wei Minmin, indicating that she had finished reading. Wei Minmin then put away her cell phone. The next second, Wei Xiao happened to look over here. Since teacher Yun and teacher Shi know each other, I won't introduce them more. These two are the other two leading actors in the play, Zhang Lingzi, who plays the heroine Zhang Yuanzhao, and Wei Xiao Minmin, plays Wei Fuiying. He wanted to introduce the last person, but when he saw that there was no one in front of the dressing table number 4, he immediately realized that no one had arrived yet, so he quickly stopped. When Zhang Lingzi looked at her from Yunping, "Teacher Yun, nice to meet you." Yunping nodded, his eyes fell on Zhang Lingzi's face, but he didn't look away for a long time. This made Wei Minmin, who had originally planned to say hello, stick out her tongue and swallow her words temporarily. The room became quiet for a while. Tong Yu watched from the corner and couldn't help pinching the corner of her clothes nervously. She has never interacted with this teacher Yunping. After all, the two of them specialize in different fields. However, although she has never met this person, there has always been a legend about him in the entertainment industry. There are as many as 1,000 celebrity agents, big and small, in the industry, but when it comes to the uncrowned king of makeup, no one dares to compete with Yunping for this title. Even if the other party has an eccentric temperament and sometimes won't take on one film a year, directors will want to hire her as long as a costume crew starts filming. It shows its strength. Looking at this artist staring at her artist without saying a word, how could she not be nervous? What does this mean? The calmest person on the scene was Zhang Lingzi, who was being stared at, with calm eyes and a smile. Even Wei Xiao, who was standing aside, couldn't help but hold his breath. Time passed minute by minute, and finally a slightly hoarse voice sounded, "Yes, the real person is better than the video." As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere in the room also relaxed. "Teacher Yun gave me the award." "It's Wei Minmin." The nominated Wei Minmin immediately stood upright after meeting Yunping's gaze, waiting for the review. "When filming this movie, be less offbeat," Wei Minmin laughed dryly. "Okay, Teacher Yun." Yunping waved, and several makeup artists who were standing quietly behind her immediately stepped forward, waiting for instructions. Shimin glanced over, and the makeup artist she brought silently retreated and disappeared into the crowd. "I didn't know that Yunping was responsible for the makeup before, but now that I know, she still dares to use her own makeup artist." After Yunping finished instructing his subordinates one by one on how to put makeup, hair, and clothes on the actors, he turned to look at Wei Xiao, who had brought the script over. "Didn't you say there is another one?" "There's still one that hasn't arrived yet. I'll have someone call to remind you later." "Well, as soon as possible. Aren't you pressed for time? I plan to finish the makeup of the main actors in one day today." Wei Xiao was naturally very happy. "Then thank you, Teacher Yun." When trying on makeup, you may sit in front of the dressing table for several hours, so naturally you cannot just sit there and do nothing. Zhang Lingzi had just been assigned to have her makeup artist clean her face with toner, and she had a substantial script in her hands. "Let's flip through it first. After trying on the makeup, I'll turn on the camera. After I turn on the camera, I'll start reading the script." Wei Xiao reminded her and hurried out to arrange other things. As soon as he left the house, Zhang Lingzi heard Wei Minmin next door mutter, "It's so thick." Indeed, it is not an exaggeration to say it is a book. She lowered her eyes and looked at the cover of the script, which showed the entire Yinhe Palace in ink and wash. The only bright color on the entire cover is a back figure standing in front of Xiaoming Palace, wearing a vermilion embroidered gold dragon robe, with the corners of the robe flowing down to the bottom of the steps. exuding domineering and mysterious. Above the head of the back figure is the name of the entire script. The 4 characters Empress Yuan Zhao are printed in calligraphy. I finally saw what this script looks like, and I don't know if I have many lines. Zhang Lingzi listened to the sound of turning pages beside her, holding the script but not moving. Not surprisingly, what is described here is about her life. No one is more familiar with how she got through her last life than she is. When reading this script, it is better to see how future generations summarize her life in the form of a script. Time passed by, the actors were reading the script carefully, the makeup artist was also busy going back and forth, and the assistant standing by also started to help with some small help within his ability. What broke this orderliness was the sound of a few somewhat messy footsteps. Before anyone could enter the room, an apology came first. "Sorry, I'm late." Zhang Lingzi was doing her hair. When she heard the sound, she raised her eyes and looked in the mirror. When she saw Lin Suifei's face, she guessed that she had successfully auditioned for Zhang Lingen. Shimen was the first to say hello and smooth things over. "Shuefei is here, not too late. We haven't finished the first makeup yet. Were you delayed on the way?" "Yes," Lin Suifei looked at Shimen gratefully for the first time. "The plane couldn't take off yesterday due to the weather, and it's late again today. Even though I hurriedly rushed, I'm still late. Come and sit here." Shiman pointed to the only empty seat on her right. "Our makeup instructor just left and should be back soon. By the way, this time the makeup instructor it's teacher Yunping Yun." Yunping, Lin Suifei had just sat on the chair and almost jumped up when she heard the words, "Is it the teacher Yun I know?" "Well, that's the one." Lin Suifei couldn't help but swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and she was a little on the verge of crying. She was so unlucky, and it was all the fault of that guy Chen Rui. Yunping was the first shock to her. After seeing clearly that it was Zhang Lingzi sitting in front of the dressing table number 1, Lin Suifei almost couldn't help shouting female number 1 in front of so many people in the room. "Why is it you?" Then he thought that when the crew officially started filming, as the actor of Zhang Lingen, he would have to call Zhang Lingzi's sister with admiration and trust, and his face turned completely green. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 163. If Zhang Lingzi knew what Lin Suifei was thinking at this moment, she would just say to her, "Don't say you don't want me to play the sister, I don't want you to play the sister yet." However, since she has passed the audition, it proves that the director has recognized Lin Suifei's acting skills. Naturally, she will not and cannot say anything. Time passed bit by bit in such a delicate harmony. Zhang Lingzi looked at herself in the mirror as she was gradually completing her makeup, and fell into memories. Just now Yunping said that the heroine's makeup trial will have a total of 3 looks today, which respectively correspond to the period when Emperor Yuan Zhao was a girl, the period when he ascended the throne as emperor, and the period when he was wearing military uniform and fighting on the battlefield. The look she is doing right now is from her girlhood, which is the longest in her memory. The makeup is bright, and the exquisite golden phoenix tail hair crown does not take away the girl's brilliance at all, but adds a solemn and steady look. Zhang Lingzi closed her eyes. When she opened them again, her eyes were filled with the liveliness of a girl, as well as the calmness of a royal princess. When she put on the tailor-made silver-red palace costume, she had to admire Yunping's vision. With this costume and makeup, even if it is not exactly like her who was a princess in her previous life, she still looks 90% like her. By the way, there are also earrings. After admiring it, the stylist came to his senses and quickly took out the matching earrings to put on Zhang Lingzi, but Zhang Lingzi raised her hand to stop her. Emperor Yuan Zhao did not wear earrings. "Huh, The stylist paused, looked at Zhang Lingzi, and then looked for help at Yunping, who was instructing Lin Suifei's stylist. Yunping turned around when he heard the voice, and paused when he saw Zhang Lingzi. Emperor Yuan Zhao doesn't wear earrings, who said that? Zhang Lingzi looked at Yunping with slightly dissatisfied eyes and explained in a calm tone, when Emperor Yuan Zhao was young, he went to war with his father and brother on the battlefield. He never wore earrings or other troublesome accessories. Even when he returned to his boudoir, he did not have this habit. After saying these words, several stylists affiliated with Yunping immediately looked at him as if they were looking at the warrior. This is the first time they have heard someone dare to refute Boss Yun's decision in the field of styling. Wei Minmin was so anxious that he glanced sideways at Zhang Lingzi. Just wear it, why are you being so serious? Shimin raised her eyebrows. It was none of her business and she remained calm. Lin Suifei held back her laughter. Even Yunping dared to refute. Who gave her the courage? Tongyu was already ready to get up and go over to smooth things over. In this weird silence, a chuckle suddenly came out, haha, you reminded me, so I won't wear it. At this time, everyone was confused again except Zhang Lingzi. Not only because Yunping actually laughed, but also because she actually adopted Zhang Lingzi's opinion. Shimin was the most shocked here. She still remembered the last time she collaborated with Yunping. There was also an actress in the crew who disliked the appearance designed by Yunping. She made some changes without authorization. What happened later? The person was put on the list of people who refused to cooperate, and even indirectly caused the career path of acting to be blocked. Now, several years have passed, and that person is still struggling at the tail end of the third line. Since then, she has understood one thing: she must never underestimate the power of a top stylist. The makeup of Wei Minmin and Shiman was also completed on the front and rear feet. Wei Minmin put on a silver armor that looked heavy, and tied her hair with red tassels. She was a heroic female general. Shiman is dressed in a floor-length autumn chrysanthemum yellow palace dress. The phoenix hairpin on her head spreads its wings and is about to fly. She is graceful and noble, showing the demeanor of the mother of a country. The two of them were also very satisfied with their looks, and Shiman couldn't help but praise, Teacher Yun's title as a top makeup artist is truly deserved. When I look at myself in the mirror, I don't want to go back. Wei Minmin raised her arms and whispered, I think I need to exercise more. This set of armor is heavier than I thought. Zhang Lingzi patted her shoulder. The function of armor is to protect a person's body, and weight is necessary. Surprisingly, Yunping nodded after hearing her words. If you want to pursue quality, you can't be afraid of weight. Just wear it more and get used to it. Shiman couldn't help but glance at Zhang Lingzi one more time, keeping a smile on her lips. Lin Suifei's makeup was not finished because she arrived late, so she could only watch the three of them go out of the dressing room and go to the newly built studio nearby to take makeup photos. According to the rankings of the three people, Shiman, who has won the Best Actress award before, should be the first to film. But this time it was Zhang Lingzi who played the heroine. Wei Xiao pondered for a few seconds and waved to Zhang Lingzi. Zhang Lingzi, you have 3 sets of looks, one more than anyone else. You come first. Shiman quietly retracted the foot she originally planned to step out. Standing in front of a completely white curtain, the cameraman and fill light are already in place. Wei Xiao was on the side and wanted to give instructions on what kind of posture to take, when he saw Zhang Lingzi straightening her sleeves and raising her eyes, standing seemingly casually, and there was a click of a shutter in her ears. He subconsciously turned his head and glanced at the computer screen connected to the camera. Although the background is all white, the girl in silver and red palace clothes is the most eye-catching color. Her eyes are clear as a girl's, her face is bright and beautiful, but she still has the dignity of a noble girl. The cameraman was used to taking snapshots. When those eyes looked over, he subconsciously pressed the shutter. After checking the image, he saw that the director was also looking at the snapshot and asked in a low voice, "Director, please take more shots. How many?" Wei Xiao raised his hand to wipe his face and shook his head slowly. "No, this one is enough." Although there are 3 sets of makeup photos to be taken, only one of them will be chosen for promotion. He originally planned to use actors wearing Scarlet Dragon robes, but now, his decision has wavered. This one from Girlhood is also quite good. Alright, Zhang Lingzi is going to change into her second look, and then she'll take pictures of the queen. Zhang Lingzi was blocked by Tong Yu and Lu Zhengzheng when she came out of the studio. "Wait, don't change yet. Let's take 2 more pictures for you with our phones." When they were in the dressing room before, neither of them dared to speak for fear of offending Yunping, but now they finally no longer had to hold it in. As expected of Yunping, "This look is amazing." Tong Yu slapped her lips without stopping. "Originally, I thought about watching you finish the look and leave, but now I plan to stay. I must watch your next 2 looks." Lu Zhengzheng looked around and whispered, "I have decided that from today on, the number 1 beauty in ancient costume will be Sister Zixi." Zhang Lingzi stood there helplessly waiting for them to finish filming. "We can't spread the word. You need to remind us of this, we can see for ourselves." Back at the door of the dressing room, I happened to bump into Lin Suifei, who had just finished her makeup and was in a hurry to take her makeup photos. Zhang Lingzi paused and looked at the weak girl made up in front of her. You can see Yunping's level of makeup from her and Wei Minmin Shiman's makeup, and it's certainly not bad when it comes to Lin Suifei. Wearing a light green palace dress, her hair accessories are all simple jade hair accessories, which is indeed very similar to the simple and comfortable dress that my little girl likes in my memory. The only thing is that Lin Suifei's eyes are far less clear than those of her younger sister. In addition, the filming has not officially started yet, and there is no need to even disguise. The moment Zhang Lingzi met Lin Suifei's eyes, she felt that it was particularly inappropriate. She wants to wash her eyes. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 164. The second set of makeup was done by Yunping himself, to everyone's surprise. Zhang Lingzi could tell from the shocked expressions of the makeup artists under her that it was very rare for them to do it themselves. The 12 Liuliu crowns covered the divine light in her eyes, the vermilion dragon robe trailed to the floor a little longer than the queen's phoenix robe, and the black gold and jade belt tightened her thin but tough waist. When Zhang Lingzi saw the dragon robe costume, she noticed that it was exactly the same as the one on the cover of the script. Dayan regarded vermilion as the most respected person, followed by yellow. Only when he was the first among his ministers could he wear purple official robes. After carefully looking at the makeup she personally participated in again, Yunping nodded with satisfaction in his heart. Thinking of the advice the girl had just given her, he asked casually, "What are your opinions on this makeup?" At the dressing table next to them, Wei Minmin and Shi Man had come back to do the second set of makeup. They were originally surprised to see Yunping do it for Zhang Lingzi, but now they heard Yunping's words again and couldn't control their expressions. Wei Minmin even thought divergently and thought, does teacher Yunping feel that her career has encountered challenges after meeting Sister 11? Don't tell me, Zhang Lingzi really has it. I think the lipstick is a bit dark. The lipstick was not applied by Yunping himself, but by the original stylist. Hearing her words, he frowned and said, this bright red is the most domineering color. Zhang Lingzi did not sit down again after putting on the scarlet dragon robe she was wearing. Now she lowered her eyes and looked over. Sometimes the icing on the cake is not the best. Yunping thought thoughtfully, what color do you think is better? Zhang Lingzi schemed through a whole row of lipsticks, and finally picked up the lipstick that was closest to her original lip color, this one. But this color is not all. Yunping interrupted his men, erase it and try this color. Zhang Lingzi took the makeup remover wipes and wiped off the original lipstick color, then put on the lipstick of her choice. Then she looked at herself in the mirror and felt much better. Although True Red is indeed the most domineering, she has never used True Red lipstick since she came to the throne. Is it possible that without this color of lipstick, I can't show my domineering look? She has no need for such icing on the cake. Yunping stood behind Zhang Lingzi and looked into the mirror with her. The person in the mirror did not have that bright lipstick, and the makeup on his face became a bit dull. But when she met the eyes looking over from behind the 12 crowns, her breath suddenly stopped. It seemed that I suddenly understood why the emperor deliberately covered his eyes and face so that no one could see clearly. It seemed that only in this way, the people facing the emperor could have room to think calmly and not be shocked by such a look. She was silent for a moment and then decided, just use this color. She also suddenly realized that emperors don't need bright colors for their makeup. Just standing there is intimidating and authoritative. Wei Minmin took a breath, and when Zhang Lingzi went out to take the second set of makeup photos, she quietly gave her a thumbs up. She was able to ask Yunping to change the makeup she had decided on twice in a row. She just wanted to say, it's amazing. When he walked to the door of the studio, Zhang Lingzi happened to bump into Lin Suifei coming out of it. Their eyes met for a moment, and Lin Suifei subconsciously turned sideways to open the door of the studio behind her. When Zhang Lingzi passed her with two makeup artists who were helping her carry her robe, Lin Suifei realized what she had just done. She actually took the initiative to make way for Zhang Lingzi. And he subconsciously let it go without even thinking about it. I must have been crazy just now. Not to mention Lin Suifei, who left with a dark face. As soon as Zhang Lingzi entered, she was greeted by the looks of everyone in the studio. Seeing Zhang Lingzi put on the scarlet dragon robe, Wei Xiao felt that her mood, which had been a little uncomfortable because Lin Suifei in front of her didn't go well in taking makeup photos, suddenly became sunny. I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to suppress the scarlet color, but now I think I'm worrying too much. This is not only suppressed, but also not overshadowed by this dragon robe. Just 2 words, suitable. The subsequent shooting process was just as smooth as the previous one. Zhang Lingzi didn't know how many times she had worn the dragon robe, and the real dragon robe she wore in her previous life was much heavier and more complicated than the one she was wearing. It only needs 4 words to describe how it looks when worn, it's light and heavy. The cameraman in charge of taking pictures looked at the pair of eyes under the lens that were hidden behind their hats, and pressed the shutter button without thinking. The director asked me why I was kneeling to take pictures. He said it was because my legs were weak. Only the last set is left. Wei Xiao looked at Zhang Lingzi, who was coming over after the shooting. He wanted to pat her shoulder to encourage her to work harder. However, when he stretched out his hand halfway, it happened to meet Zhang Lingzi's eyes, and he immediately raised his hand again. He silently took it back and said, "Go back and have lunch and take a good rest. At this rate, we can go back to the hotel to rest in about 3 or 4 o'clock." This took much less time than he expected, and it was so smooth that he was a little surprised. Halfway through taking off my makeup, someone from the production crew came over to hand out lunch boxes. After receiving the lunch boxes according to the number of people, everyone also stopped what they were doing and prepared to eat quickly while the food was hot. But it's a mess outside, so eating can only be done in this dressing room. We started chatting while eating. By the way, have you seen the actor who plays the male lead? I saw no one who walked in and out of the studio this morning who seemed to be playing the male lead, Shi-man said and looked at Yunping. Is teacher Yun also responsible for the male actor's makeup? Have you seen the actor who plays the male lead? Yunping shook his head. I assigned my apprentice to try out the male actor's makeup, but it seems that the actor who plays the male lead is not here. You're not here? Lin Suifei's eyes widened in disbelief. You're not even here for the makeup photo shoot today? Thinking about how much effort she had to make to get here, there were actually other actors who didn't come, which made her feel happy. Because Lin Suifei was late, Yunping had been lukewarm towards her all morning. Hearing her words, he just said lightly, "You have to ask your director about this. I am responsible for your makeup, and I am not. It's up to the cast and crew to stay." Lin Swafi's face stiffened as she said, "Teacher Yoon, I'm just a little surprised. Everyone still doesn't know who the actor who plays the male lead is, and the makeup hasn't come yet, so I'm a little curious." As a result, Yunping did not give her any face. "If you are curious, then ask your director. If you ask me, you are asking the wrong person." Lin Swafi didn't want to say anything now, lowered her head and started to eat rice silently. Wei Minmin secretly blinked at Zhang Lingzi. Even she is not very clear about this matter, but her intuition tells her that Sister 11 must know the reason. After all, I was recommended by Sister 11. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 165. Zhang Lingzi really knows the reason. But it wasn't her who asked, but Shen Yunqing took the initiative to send a message to explain to her. So when he finished his meal and was about to take a rest, he revealed to Wei Minmin, "Director Wei is satisfied if he agrees to come and film this movie." Wei Minmin turned these words around in her mind and nodded with a look of enlightenment. "Understood. Not to mention that Mr. Shen's official job is not an actor, so there is no need to act in this play. Instead, the director's uncle has fallen in love with her, and in the literal sense, he has to be her, so in the end he needs to compromise. It's obvious who it is." Shiman and Lin Swafi were still discussing whether the actor who would play the male lead would come in the afternoon. Zhang Lingzi and Wei Minmin exchanged a tacit look. "That may disappoint you. It won't come in the afternoon either. The mystery will continue to the end." After resting for almost half an hour, several people got up from the portable recliners. Zhang Lingzi took the peppermint oil from Wei Minmin and put it under her nose and smelled it. Her mind suddenly cleared. "This thing is good." Thinking that days like this would last at least several months, Zhang Lingzi was about to ask Lu Zhengzheng to buy some for her when she saw Wei Minmin pull the drawer and said, "I have a lot more, Sister 11, you can use mine." Zhang Lingzi looked at the drawer, which contained about a dozen bottles after a cursory scan, and nodded in silence. More experienced than her. Shiman and Lin Shuefei also had their own ways to wake up. When they returned to the dressing table, their spirits were high. Their faces were being worked on by the makeup artist, while they themselves picked up the script at hand. Other actors do not have high requirements for the script, but they, the main actors, must read through the script in their hands before starting the filming. It would be better if they can roughly note the direction of the entire story. When everyone gets together to read the script, if they are asked about the content of the script and their own opinions, they cannot hesitate and say nothing. The other three people were just looking at it. Zhang Lingzi also asked Tong Yu for a pen, and while reading, she marked the areas that she felt needed to be modified. Wei Minmin noticed that she was a little curious about her movements, but she was concerned that there were many people in the dressing room, so she had to push back her doubts. "But I also found a pen and marked out my lines in the script. Let's follow the example of Sister Xiang. Teacher Zhang, your makeup is done, we will help you change your clothes." Zhang Lingzi clamped the pen in the script, looked up and saw a set of light golden heart armor hanging on the shelf behind her. But when she saw her face, she stood up but did not move. "This makeup." Now when he heard what she said, the makeup artist in charge of her couldn't help but start to get nervous, especially when Boss Yoon, who was reading a book at the side, also looked over and asked quickly, "Does Teacher Zhang have any opinions on makeup?" Don't even dare to say the word opinion for fear of being suspected of provocation. Zhang Lingzi saw the nervous look on the face of the girl who was responsible for her makeup. She smiled at her and said warmly, "I want to say, since it is a military uniform, isn't this makeup a bit too clean?" This time, not only the makeup artist was stunned, but also Yun Ping, who was listening to her words. He stood up and walked to Zhang Lingzi and looked at it for 2 seconds. He reached for the paint on the table that was used for special effects makeup. He dipped a soft line pen into the paint and applied it briefly twice. Zhang Lingzi looked in the mirror again and saw that there was more paint beside her eyebrows. There was a red scar on his face, and a trace of black-gray on the side of his face. Although it does look much more real, it is still far behind compared to real battlefield injuries. But since it's just acting, it doesn't have to be so realistic. Yunping waited for her to finish looking at it. Is this okay? Okay. That's it? Zhang Lingzi took the black robe that was handed to her and put it on neatly without waiting for the staff's help. However, she needed help to put on the armor. Putting on the last piece of arm protection, Zhang Lingzi looked at the makeup mirror. Died of illness on the way back from victory. She never thought that she would one day put on her armor again. Even though this is just a costume for filming, in order to strive for realism, apart from making the material as lightweight as possible, this armor is no different from real armor in other aspects. At most, it is a little more beautiful. The sound of war and iron horses seemed to be ringing in my ears again. The eyes of other people in the dressing room were also staring at her unconsciously. Wei Minmin was the closest and seemed a little distracted. She thought she was handsome enough in military uniform, but she was afraid of the comparison. Furthermore, she seemed to smell an iron-blooded air that seemed to emanate from the depths of her soul. Obviously there are only all kinds of cosmetics and the smell of perfume on everyone's bodies in this room. Not bad, there was a hint of appreciation in Yunping's eyes. This is not the first time she has done the makeup of a woman's military uniform, there was another one like Wei Minmin before. But girls are weak by nature, and even when wearing armor, they rarely feel the murderous aura. She can only use makeup to help increase the aura as much as possible. Unexpectedly, I really felt that today, makeup is just the icing on the cake in front of the real aura. Before going out to the studio to take pictures, Zhang Lingzi also had a long prop knife in her hand, which was heavy in her hand. The knife is in a hollow sheath, and the bright blade can be seen through the gap in the sheath, and there is even a thin blood groove carefully carved on it. To be honest, when she saw this knife, she really admired Wei Xiao and the group of experts who studied history. Even though this knife is not the one she used frequently in her previous life, it is at least 80% similar in appearance. It seems that in order to restore it as much as possible, the crew must have made a lot of efforts in private. This sword, no, this sword. Yunping originally thought that the sword sent by the props team was a bit long. When it stood up, it was almost as tall as the actor himself. It was almost enough for a male actor to use it, but would it be difficult for a girl to use it? It would be uncoordinated. But when she watched Zhang Lingzi hold the knife in her hand, she felt unexpectedly harmonious. What? Zhang Lingzi took her eyes away from the sword and looked sideways when she heard Yunping's voice. It's nothing, this knife suits you very well. It's not the makeup or the armor, it's just the person holding the prop knife. Zhang Lingzi chuckled and nodded towards her, thank you. The armor was clanging, and it wasn't until the figure who looked slender but seemed to be gratuitously tall walked away that the atmosphere in the dressing room slowly recovered. Lin Suifei looked at herself in the makeup mirror and slowly exhaled. Even though she didn't want to admit it, Zhang Lingzi's outfit after outfit did put a lot of pressure on her. It is as if the role of Emperor Yuan Zhao was specially tailor-made for Zhang Lingzi. But how is this possible? Emperor Yuan Zhao has a prototype in history. Is it possible that such a character could sense that someone was going to play him and deliberately enter Zhang Lingzi's dream? The thought just came up and was cut off again. This is too ridiculous. Zhang Lingzi, you can be more bold in your association. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, X. Press 11. Chapter 166. With the Queen's site in front of her as a base, the cameraman responsible for taking the makeup photos thought he could restrain his uncontrollable weakness in the legs. Until the Queen, who had changed into a military uniform, was holding an unsheathed knife, the tip of the knife and her gaze pointed directly at the camera. Standing behind the camera, he couldn't help but shake his hands and almost drop the valuable machine. Finally, after the director next to him said it was okay, the cameraman put down the camera and immediately took out a tissue and wiped the sweat on his face due to nervousness. For the first time, I felt that it was so hard to make money. Zhang Lingzi sheathed her knife and walked up to the cameraman, whose heartbeat was still calming. "Thank you for your hard work." The experience of fighting in her previous life was so profound that when she took the sword out of its sheath just now, she was a little bit reluctant to hold it. "No hard work, no hard work, you are too kind." Wei Xiao raised his head and glanced at the two of them, then looked at the photos on the computer screen and touched his chin, feeling entangled. When the first set of makeup photos came out, he thought it would be a good idea to just choose this palace attire. When the second set came out, the Queen's momentum was immediately full, which is undoubtedly more in line with the overall tone of the entire TV series. The third set is coming out now, and I have to say, it's quite good. So, which one is better to choose as the main promotional picture? It's hard to stop him now. Satellite Guide. Wei Xiao was still struggling when he heard Zhang Lingzi's voice and looked up. "It's been a hard day today. Let's change out of costume and go back and have a good rest. Wait for the crew to notify us to start filming." "Okay, one more thing, Shen Yunqing didn't come for the male protagonist's makeup photos. How did director Wei handle it?" "Mr. Shen's costume has been sent, and they said they would send the photos directly," Wei Xiao replied with a smile, not looking worried at all. "I have decided that the male protagonist will remain a mystery, it just makes the audience curious." Zhang Lingzi looked at director Wei, who was like an old fox and knew that he already had a plan in mind, so he nodded and said nothing more. When she went back to the dressing room to take off her heavy armor and makeup, Tong Yu came over with her mobile phone and said, "You just entered the studio and Mr. Shen sent a message. Do you want it?" Zhang Lingzi took the phone, unlocked it, clicked on Shen Yunqing's profile picture, and saw a side profile. Purple robe, black blonde hair crown, picturesque profile. Her finger that was about to move downward suddenly paused, and her breathing paused for 2 seconds. Like, really like. She didn't expect that Shen Yunqing in costume would look so much like her own Shen Sheng. Just now, she almost thought that this person had traveled through thousands of years and came to the next generation. It wasn't until a soft wow sounded in her ears that Zhang Lingzi came back to her senses and turned her head to look at Wei Minmin, who was approaching. Wei Minmin was shocked by what she saw, and quickly raised her hands to beg for mercy. "I saw that you were looking at your phone intently. I was a little curious and couldn't help but take a glance. Sister 11, I was wrong. It won't happen next time." "Yes, yes, yes," Wei Minmin hurriedly clasped her hands together. "I promise I will never do it again next time." "But was it Mr. Shen who just sent me the makeup photo?" "This, Sister 11, you are the prettiest." Zhang Lingzi raised her lower lip at her, clicked on the picture without leaving a trace, saved it, and then closed it. When she scrolled down, she saw a text message, "What do you think of this photo?" She typed a reply, "Not bad." Just as he was buttoning his shirt with one hand, the message came back, "Okay, I'll send the photo to the Director of Health." Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but raise her eyebrows when she saw the message. Was it because she wanted to be satisfied before sending it to Director Wei? A few minutes later, Wei Xiao looked at the photo he had just received on his computer and took a photo of his thigh. "Oh, it's a pity that this is the only one. But he should be satisfied if he can invite Mr. Shen." Tong Yu looked at the pile of photos saved in the photo album of her mobile phone and was quite satisfied. Since Teacher Wei is going back to the hotel with you, I won't send you there. If you need anything, call me. After saying that, he patted Lu Zhengzheng on the shoulder and said, take care of your sister Zixi. Lu Zhengzheng nodded solemnly, Sister Tong, don't worry. Shimen changed her clothes and came out of the inner room, and saw Lin Suifei still outside. Why haven't you left yet? You've been busy for almost a day, and why don't you go back and have a good rest? Lin Suifei stood up and said in a friendly tone, I want to wait for Sister Man and go together. We are mother and daughter in the play, and we can chat about the script together on the way. It would be boring to go alone. Shimen chuckled lightly and raised her eyebrows, let's go then. Since Lin Suifei wanted to show her closeness, regardless of whether it was true or false, she went on. Lin Suifei took Shiman's arm and came out, pursed her lips at an angle that no one else could see, and suppressed the unwillingness in her heart. Compared to Shiman, whose popularity has declined sharply and who urgently needs to get a good role to return to the public eye, she naturally wants to get close to Wei Minmin, who is more popular and is the niece of the director. But she also needs the other party to give her this opportunity to get close. I don't know where Zhang Lingzi fell in love with this young lady. It just so happened that Wei Minmin was also talking about Lin Suifei at this moment. Sister 11, don't you like Lin Suifei who plays Princess Jinan? This question made the assistant who was following behind want to cover his artist's mouth. How could anyone ask so directly? Wouldn't this offend people? The next second she heard Zhang Lingzi reply equally directly, I don't like it. Now there is another assistant who is secretly worried about his artist. The two of them followed their artist with their luggage. They looked at each other and saw the sympathy in each other's eyes. However, the two people in front of them didn't feel their assistant's heartache at all. Wei Minmin raised her hand and gave Zhang Lingzi a small high five. It seems that the heroes have the same view. The two assistants raised their hands to their foreheads. They thought they were deaf at this moment. Wei Minmin looked around and made sure that there was no one else except her assistant and Sister 11's assistant, then she said, actually, I also heard a rumor about Lin Suifei, and I was hesitant to remind my uncle. Zhang Lingzi didn't really want to hear any gossip about Lin Suifei, but if it had something to do with the crew, would it affect the crew's filming? I'm not sure either, so I don't know whether I should tell my uncle. I'm just a kid. When I went to play in the south some time ago, I saw Lin Suifei staying in a hotel with someone from their circle. She was curious. Then I checked with my family connections and found out that Lin Suifei was in the same room and was probably in love. In fact, Wei Minmin almost wanted to say two other words, but for some reason she didn't want the people next to her to hear the words, so she temporarily changed her words to use more euphemistic words. She is about the same age as us, isn't it normal to fall in love? Seeing Zhang Lingzi say this seriously, one more person was holding her forehead, but Lin Suifei said in a public live broadcast not long ago that she is single, and she has no intention of falling in love in the short term and just wants to focus on her career. Then this is deceiving the audience, Zhang Lingzi concluded and looked at Wei Minmin, who was still frowning. Are you afraid that the story of her falling in love behind the back of her fans will come out and affect the filming of the crew? This is not the most serious thing, Wei Minmin sighed. My friend who published the novel is engaged to her, but I am not sure whether Lin Suifei knows it. The difference between knowing and not knowing is huge. Sister 11, do you think I should remind my uncle? I always feel that it's not a good idea to say this, and if I don't say it, I'm still worried. Zhang Lingzi. What a clever girl, I am waiting here to ask her for advice. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 167. My suggestion is to look at Lin Suifei's choice. Even though Zhang Lingzi just said this, Wei Minmin was clear about it and nodded immediately. I understand, this is indeed the method with the least impact on the crew. Two assistants who followed them to help them keep an eye on all directions and listen to all directions. These choices are so clear, why do they just feel clouded and foggy when they hear it? Is the gap between the brain and the brain so big? However, there were many questions hidden in their hearts, and neither of them opened their mouths to ask them. This is no longer something that little assistants like them can be curious about. Regarding what they just said, there are only 4 words they have to do: keep it secret. Zhang Lingzi didn't care about what Wei Minmin told Wei Xiao. There is no shortage of transparent and smart people in this world, and Director Wei is naturally not stupid. In addition, this crew has spent a lot of effort on his part, so how could he not? I won't let anyone ruin it. She just needs to handle this matter properly and concentrate on waiting for the crew to start filming. The next day was the day when the cast and crew, except for the leading actors, took their final makeup photos. Originally, it didn't matter if these small characters didn't take their final makeup photos, but because of the director's request and because this is a historical drama, it was naturally more rigorous. It didn't matter to Zhang Lingzi, she just stayed in the hotel and read the script. 3 meals a day are provided, making the stay so comfortable. On the other hand, Wei Minmin, who lives next door, knocked on the door of her room in the middle of the morning, pretending to be holding the script in her hand, and said as she walked in, "Sister 11, I'll come to you to review the script, is it convenient?" Zhang Lingzi raised her eyes to look at her, patted the place beside her, and tapped the phone on the coffee table with her chin. "It's inconvenient, didn't you come directly here?" Hey, Wei Minmin sat down and pinched a grape that Lu Zhengzheng had just washed and brought over. He glanced at the script spread by Zhang Lingzi on his lap. "The main reason is that I'm a little bored. Queen Shi and Lin Suifei, who live across the street, can't talk to each other, so they can only bother you, Sister 11. Well, is this a comment?" She originally just wanted to see which page Zhang Lingzi was looking at, but she didn't see the page number yet. She first saw that there were a lot of words written in several places on the opened page. Zhang Lingzi nodded, "That's right. What is that, can I see it?" Zhang Lingzi was about to go to the bathroom, so she handed over the script in her hand. There is nothing that cannot be read in this comment. Anyway, she will bring it up during the script reading later. But when she came out of the bathroom, she saw Wei Minmin suddenly raised his head and looked towards her, with a complex and shocked expression on his face and eyes. "Why do you think I'm doing this?" Wei Minmin opened her mouth and managed to find her voice. "Sister 11, if my uncle sees the script in your hand, he will probably not be able to sleep tonight. As for why I couldn't sleep, I naturally wanted to see how I found so many omissions or things that needed to be revised in the script I had worked so hard to complete, which I thought was perfect." When she originally read the script, she didn't think there was anything bad about it. She even declined other jobs to act in this drama. Firstly, it was purely because she liked to worship her ancestor Wei Fuiying. Secondly, the script was written so well. But it was much better than the scripts she had seen that appeared to be historical dramas but were actually love dramas between men and women. But after reading the annotations written by Zhang Lingzi, she carefully considered them, and was shocked to find that if she made changes according to the opinions in these annotations, it would be more reasonable, both in terms of individual plots and overall. "Sister 11, I think my uncle needs to add your name as the screenwriter of this script." She swore that she absolutely meant what she said. "Let me see it again." Wei Minmin looked at the script that had returned to its owner. According to the frequency of almost every page she had just read, she could see at least one comment. When the script was finished, she looked down at the script in her hand, which only marked Wei Fuiying's lines, and felt that she could put down the highlighter for the time being. Perhaps this script will undergo a major change after the roundup reading, and everyone will change to a new script by then. "Originally, I planned to ask you to comment on the lines," she muttered in a low voice. "Now I think it's better to forget it, Sister 11, it's more important for you to comment." So the original dialogue changed to the two of them sitting side by side, eating fruit, and reading the script in their hands. Asterisk. Not to mention that when Wei Xiao saw his eldest niece again, he received a look with some sympathy from her. He was feeling a little upset because of what Wei Minmin told him last night. Before he could figure out how to communicate with Lin Suifei, another dispute broke out in the dressing room, and the sound was so loud that he could hear it standing in the yard. Immediately he frowned and shouted, "What's going on?" The people next to me hurriedly ran over to check it out, and then came back and said, "It's the palace maids who were quarreling over the distribution of jewelry and costumes." Since it is a historical drama, and the drama involves a lot of court and harem, there are many actors playing the roles of palace maids, and they are divided into 1 and 2 groups. Comparatively speaking, one group has more scenes. Although most of them are used as backdrops, they also have more opportunities to show their faces and have some lines. The second group is much less, and most of them just serve as backgrounds. Now the dressing room of the second group is busy quietly, but it is the first group that is making a fuss. After hearing this, Wei Xiao's face darkened, and he walked towards the dressing room of the palace maids. Before he even reached the door, the sounds inside became clear. The woman's voice came out plausibly, "Qing Yuan is the most powerful palace maid under Emperor Yuan Zhao. If it weren't for her lack of status, it is not impossible to get a main actor for this role. How can the jewelry on her head be inferior to other palace maids? This costume is too old-fashioned. I must have made a mistake. I asked for a recheck." Then there was a somewhat embarrassed voice, "I have already checked with the makeup team and costume team to make sure there is nothing wrong. The jewelry and costumes used by the character Qing Yuan look like this. Are you really sure that such an old-fashioned color is not for some old lady character?" Hearing this, Wei Xiao felt a sudden change. He carefully studied each role in the play, even the one with only one line, with several consultants invited. The makeup and costumes were also carefully studied with the makeup team before being finalized. Moreover, the crew members are all those he is used to, so it is impossible for him to make such a simple mistake. The words he heard meant that someone was dissatisfied and questioned his decision. Thinking of this, he immediately picked up his feet and continued walking forward. He wanted to see who was so bold as to question him and the crew. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 168. What's going on? Do you think this is a vegetable market? The sound is so loud that you can hear it in the yard. Wei Xiao appeared at the door of the dressing room with his hands behind his back. As soon as his face was revealed, the buzzing room could be heard within a few seconds. Who dares not to recognize the person who speaks first in the crew? Immediately became as silent as a cicada. Wei Xiao didn't go in either. In fact, the dressing room was no better than the dressing rooms of the leading actors across the street. What he could see was a room full of young girls. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to stand even if he went in, so he simply inspected everyone at the door. Read it again. Finally, he reached out and pointed to the girl who was still holding a costume and had a work tag hanging around her neck. "Tell me, what's going on?" The only girl in the room was relieved after seeing Wei Xiao being led over. Rather than being scolded by Director Wei, she didn't want to be pointed at by the actors in front of her and her agent and said she was not good at her job. "Director Wei, this teacher Zhang and her agent said that the jewelry and costumes I assigned were wrong, but I have carefully checked before and Qing Yuan's costume is correct." Wei Xiao looked at the costume in her hand, then at the actor who had just stood up from the makeup stool not far away from her, and frowned. Actually, he just felt that the actor looked familiar to the agent next to him, but he couldn't remember when and where he had seen them before. It's normal to think about it. As a director, he has seen at least thousands of actors. The only ones he can remember, except those who played the main and supporting roles in his plays, are the ones who are famous in the industry. Even some second and third tier actors, not many can be noticed by him. With an agent accompanying him, he is probably somewhat famous, so no wonder he dared to question him. The actor who plays Qing Yuan, right? If you can pass this audition, I guess you have an understanding of the character Qing Yuan. So tell me, what is the character of Qing Yuan? Zhang Ziyu suddenly met director Wei's expressionless eyes as he looked at her, and his heart skipped a beat. She has obviously met and talked to director Wei, but why does it seem like director Wei doesn't recognize her at all? Suppressing the nervousness in her heart, she hesitantly said, Qing Yuan, the character of Qing Yuan is a loyal protector and is highly valued by Emperor Yuan Zhao. Also, there is. Okay, stop talking. Wei Xiao interrupted her directly. To be able to be the maid in charge of Emperor Yuan Zhao, Emperor Yuan Zhao is not stupid, and the word loyalty can be used in your words. What I want to ask is Qing Qing, the character of the kite itself. Zhang Ziyu's face turned red and white. She didn't expect director Wei to be so rude, and so many people around were watching. This made it difficult for her to get off the stage. After hesitating for a moment, Wei Xiao's patience was completely exhausted. For this role, just wear this costume honestly. If you really don't like this costume, you should also know where the gate of the film and television city opens. It's just a role of a palace maid, and there are people vying for it. You are not bad. 1. Zhang Ziyu forced a smile, gritted his teeth and lowered his head to admit his mistake. Director Wei, this is my fault. I have disturbed you. I apologize to you. Wei Xiao didn't care whether her apology was sincere or fake, and there was a more worrying thing on his mind at the moment, so he just waved his hand casually. Everyone in my crew is safe and sound. This is just this time, it won't be the same next time. After that, he turned around and left. When he walked away, the people in the dressing room started talking in twos and threes, but they just drifted away from a certain corner without leaving a trace. Many of them originally complimented Zhang Ziyu after seeing him. After all, Zhang Ziyu was much more famous than them. Although I don't understand how the other party could fall in love with such a small character, it's a rare opportunity to become familiar with him. As it turned out, Zhang Ziyu had already incurred the displeasure of director Wei before the crew even started filming. Unsurprisingly, they had to stay on the crew for several months, so they naturally had to think more about it. Zhang Ziyu sat back on the makeup stool and her face darkened uncontrollably as the makeup artist inserted those old-looking jewelry on her head. Zhang Yuding on the other side added fuel to the fire and whispered in her ear, Director Wei, this is too disrespectful to us. At least we have met and talked to each other before. It's so unfair to play a palace maid with your reputation. Not grateful at all. Stop talking, Zhang Ziyu interrupted her with a low voice, his cheeks twitching uncontrollably several times. Could she say that looking at Wei Xiao's appearance, it was obvious that he didn't recognize them? That's really shameless. By the way, Zhang Ziyu glanced sideways at Xiao Tao, who had been standing quietly in the corner carrying something. Have you found out which role Zhang Lingzi plays? Who plays the heroine? For the final makeup photos on the first and second days, the makeup artist and cameraman responsible for their non-starring roles were replaced. She could only ask Xiao Tao to ask the staff who had always been on the set. But not surprisingly, Zhang Lingzi is only a fourth female character at most, a character who died young. She may not have as many opportunities to show her face as she does next to the heroine. It was the choice of the hostess. She had been thinking about it for the past few days, but she was still not sure who had squeezed Su Qingmei away. Xiao Tao did not answer immediately, her chubby face was full of confusion and embarrassment. However, Zhang Ziyu didn't see her expression and didn't hear the reply. She frowned and urged, you should tell me, don't tell me that you didn't find out. The second half of the sentence made Xiao Tao shrink subconsciously, and she closed her eyes and thought, Zhang Lingzi plays the heroine. Hiss, Zhang Ziyu was playing with a hairpin in his hand. He originally wanted Xiao Tao to stretch out his arm so that she could it, but he was stunned and pricked his finger instead, and bright red blood beads suddenly appeared. She looked at the blood droplet, and her pupils turned red. Clenched his teeth and squeezed out 3 words, "I don't believe it." Xiao Tao didn't dare to speak now no matter what. Zhang Yuding also looked ugly, and thought of the character played by Zhang Ziyu. When filming, wouldn't she have to salute Zhang Lingzi from time to time? "Don't worry, I'll go find out personally." But the result of the inquiry did not make them feel better, but made them feel worse. How did Zhang Lingzi get the lead role? No, why don't you just give up the role? We haven't taken the final photos yet, and we can afford the liquidated damages for such a small role. Zhang Yuding thought that Zhang Ziyu would never be able to bear this tone after knowing that Zhang Lingzi played the heroine, but she didn't expect that as soon as she finished asking, she saw Zhang Ziyu slowly shaking his head while touching the wound on his finger. "No, I won't leave." "Zhang Yuding, are you mad or something?" Xiao Tao accidentally caught a glimpse of Zhang Ziyu's eyes in the mirror, and couldn't help but cross her arms and shudder. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 169. Zhang Lingzi and Wei Minmin walked into the meeting hall together. They arrived neither too early nor too late, and nearly half of the people were already sitting on the large rectangular conference table in the hall. The subject is naturally Wei Xiao. Hearing his eldest niece's voice, he looked up and waved, "Here you go, sit here." He patted the seat beside him. The other actors in the hall, who were either looking at their phones or flipping through scripts, all raised their heads when they heard the sound, wanting to see who could make the director above him say hello. When you see the person, you will immediately understand. However, when they saw Zhang Lingzi sitting directly on the left side of Director Wei, several people couldn't help but purse their lips. Before this, they had never thought that such an important female number one would fall to Zhang Lingzi, who had barely made it to the second tier in the industry. Even competed with Su Qingmei. But even if they couldn't believe it, seeing Zhang Lingzi take the heroine's makeup photo with their own eyes, and now sitting next to Director Wei, they still had to convince themselves to believe it. Before everyone had arrived, Wei Xiao saw the script that Zhang Lingzi had put on the table. He could tell at a glance that it had been carefully read over the past few days. He was immediately pleased and asked, "How do you read the script?" "Read it roughly through." Wei Minmin happened to hear this when she put down her phone, and couldn't help but twitch her lips. If this is just a rough read, then her script can only be considered a complete read. Then you should have seen that you have the most roles and lines, more than twice as many as the male lead. Try to memorize them before filming starts. It's probably best if you can memorize them. Just as Zhang Lingzi nodded, her arm close to Wei Minmin was touched. She turned around and saw Wei Minmin typing for her in the memo on her mobile phone. Uncle likes to take the whole shot. One shot to the end, as the name suggests, means taking one shot without any lag, forgetting words or missing emotional movements. Forgetting your lines is the most common one. The only way is to memorize your own lines in advance. It is best to also know the lines of the person opposite you. Wei Minmin thought of the terrifying amount of lines the heroine had in the script, and silently sympathized with Zhang Lingzi in her heart. Other directors may have more relaxed requirements, but this would never happen to her brother-in-law. Not long after, all the main actors arrived. The actor and actress sat across the table from each other. Although the tables and chairs did not indicate whose seats were specific, everyone tacitly chose to sit according to their order in the play. Only, the chair opposite Zhang Lingzi was empty. Wei Xiao glanced at the empty seat, then at Zhang Lingzi, who was there. He raised his hand and told the assistant beside him, Go and close the door of the conference hall. As soon as this order came out, more than 90% of the people present were stunned. After looking at each other for a moment, Sheeman asked on behalf of everyone the doubts in their hearts, this script is being read around, and the male lead is not here either. You will be able to see me when the filming officially starts, and we will videotape the whole process during the script reading. We will show it to him then, and he will communicate with me if he has any opinions. Sheeman was about to speak but stopped. Why does it sound to her that this person has a bigger wrist than Su King-mei? But looking at the famous actors in the industry, there are some who have a higher status than Su King-mei, but they are basically in their 40s, and there is no one who fits the role of Shen Mocking. Okay, now that everyone is here, let's get started. First, tell us your opinions on your roles. Everyone had no choice but to suppress their curiosity for the time being, sit upright for a few minutes, clear their throats, and prepare to speak when it was their turn. This link not only allows the director to see how well he understands the character, but also allows other actors present to know which character they each play. Almost an hour passed after one lap. Zhang Lingzi silently raised her hand. Wei Xiao was about to talk about the next link, but he was stunned when he saw her movements. Teacher Zhang, is there anything else you want to add? Now everyone's eyes fell on her again. Zhang Lingzi did have a doubt, isn't there Qing Yuan in the starring team? She is in the character actor group, Wei Xiao replied without thinking. After saying this, Zhang Lingzi frowned, do you think the role of Qing Yuan can be placed in the starring group? Although she is a palace maid, Zhang Lingzi looked at Wei Xiao with a serious expression, but in Emperor Yuan Zhao's heart, she is different from other palace maids. A chuckle suddenly came from the meeting hall. Zhang Lingzi looked at Lin Suifei, who was sitting in the fourth seat. Why are you laughing? It's nothing, I just didn't expect Teacher Zhang to enter the play so quickly and replace himself as Emperor Yuan Zhao. The division of main actors and role actors must have been decided after careful consideration by director Wei. Could it be that the actor who plays Qing Yuan has an old relationship with Teacher Zhang? I don't know who the actor who plays Qing Yuan is. Then why are you questioning this for no reason? However, Wei Xiao did not let Lin Suifei finish her words, and interrupted with a slight cough. Okay, Ling 11's opinion will be reserved for now, and the next step is to sort out the script from beginning to end. After that, he glanced at Zheng Yiyan. Zhang Lingzi opened the script and said, Qing Yuan does have a lot of roles. We will discuss it in detail when we sort out the script. Actually, what he didn't say was that he had hesitated about whether to assign the role of Qing Yuan to the starring group. But after thinking about it, Qing Yuan is just a palace maid in the final analysis. Even if she is the palace maid of Emperor Yuan Zhao, she has no hidden special identity and skills. In the end, she was classified as a role actor. Zhang Lingzi was the first to ask him this question. At the same time, he also pointed out a very crucial point that he ignored. The biggest difference between this palace maid and other palace maids was her status in Emperor Yuan Zhao's heart. At this moment, he couldn't help but hesitate a little. But soon, he no longer cared about this hesitation. Because along with sorting out the script word for word, the other actors were all echoing ah. When Zhang Lingzi came, it was, Director Wei, my opinion is. When he first heard this mantra, Wei Xiao was very happy, not to mention that Zhang Lingzi's opinions also gave him a lot of inspiration, and he was also very happy to change it. But as time passed, Wei Xiao heard from the side, Director Wei, I have an opinion on this paragraph. He couldn't help but raise his head and silently wiped his face. It was numb. It was really numb. He himself has deleted, and revised this script several times, so how could he still receive so many opinions? The key is these opinions, it will really be better than before after following Zhang Lingzi's changes. Others were equally silent. In the final analysis, the process of sorting out the script, in their opinion, is that the director takes the leading actors to go through the plot twists roughly, and when the filming officially starts, they will break it down into more details. This is the first time that an actor has written a script with the director. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 170. The script reading in the hall came to an end until the crew knocked on the door and pushed the dining cart over to deliver the food. Wei Xiao opened a pair of disposable chopsticks, and after looking at the script that Zhang Lingzi closed for a few times, he couldn't help but said, "Can I take a look at your script?" Zhang Lingzi pushed the script towards him, "Just don't get it dirty." Wei Xiao twitched his mouth and said, "I'll just take a quick look and be careful." The words of the two made Shi-man, Lin Suilin, who were very close, and the male actors opposite them all couldn't help but glance at Zhang Lingzi's script, wondering what there was in it that made the director curious. Just watching, Wei Xiao even forgot to eat. Until a hand reached out and closed the script with a snap. "Hey, I haven't finished reading it yet. The rice is getting cold." "Ahem, just eat this." Wei Minmin couldn't help but snicker, and the others also looked at each other. What to do? I'm even more curious. But Shimin was too proud of her identity to hold back and did not speak. Although Lin Suifei was curious, she did not want to ask Zhang Lingzi. The actors opposite were not familiar with Zhang Lingzi and were too embarrassed to speak. Then I can only suppress this curiosity in my heart. After lunch, everyone drank coffee and continued their morning reading. As for the discussion that unknowingly turned into a discussion between Zhang Lingzi and Director Wei, others have become accustomed to sitting quietly and listening at this time. Shimin noticed that Lin Suifei was a little absent-minded and glanced at her for a few times without saying anything. As the time approached evening, the light in the hall began to dim. Seeing that Director Wei finally closed the script, everyone could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. This feeling after listening to the discussion class for a whole day is really indescribable. Okay, everyone has been tired for a long day, let's go back and rest. Lin Suifei took out her silent cell phone and stood up to leave first. However, before she could pull out her chair, the health director sitting at the top called her name. Lin Suifei, wait a moment. Shimin paused as she was about to stand up and glanced to the side, then I'll go back first. Lin Suifei was confused at this moment by Monk Zhang nodded towards Shiman, raised her eyes and met the eyes of Director Wei looking over. The serious meaning in it made her nervous for a moment, and she couldn't help but wonder if she was caught by Director Wei when she was distracted today. Zhang Lingzi and Wei Minmin looked at each other, and the two exchanged glances and stood up to leave. The script on the table was held down by Wei Xiao. Wei Xiao, well, I'll take your script back and read it, and I'll get it back to you during the reading tomorrow. He just wanted to see if the girl had made a lot of annotations in the following content. So, before the others went out, in addition to watching Lin Suifei, who was stopped by the director, Zhang Lingzi's script also became the focus of attention again. Soon, there were only two people left in the hall. Wei Xiao was thinking about how to speak, and the silence was a bit long, making Lin Suifei uneasy. There is one thing. As a director, I shouldn't comment on your emotional issues, but I need you to sign an additional supplementary agreement. So after Shiman and others left, they were still speculating that Director Wei would take Lin Suifei alone. When she was wondering if she wanted to add more drama to her, Lin Suifei's face turned pale as she faced Wei Xiao. Wei Xiao sighed when he saw her reaction. It seems that this girl is aware of this. Although this kind of thing is not uncommon in the industry, it is a bit uncomfortable for people in their own crew. It's just that now that the candidate has been decided, the fourth female lead is still quite important, and the makeup photos have been taken, so even if you want to change the person temporarily, it will not be easy. Besides, this is still a probabilistic event. If you are lucky, it may not be exposed at all. In this case, he has no sufficient reason to let people leave directly, so he can only sign this supplementary agreement to protect himself. Lin Swifei looked at the bold sentence on the agreement: if any negative news occurs to the artist during the filming, the crew has the right to terminate the contract, and the artist will be responsible for any losses caused. She looked at it for several minutes before she picked up he handed over the pen and signed his name with trembling fingers. Wei Xiao put away the supplementary agreement, looked at Lin Swifei's back as she stood up and left, and persuaded her in a deep voice, "Little girl, please take care of yourself. If we can make a decisive decision with the man named Chen, then the possibility of this supplementary agreement taking effect will be low. The key is that the other party is willing to listen to him." He was answered with the sound of a door closing. Asterisk. On the way back to the guest room from the hotel restaurant, Wei Minmin whispered about Lin Swifei being stopped by her uncle. "I don't know how my uncle will handle it, but I shouldn't let Lin Swifei leave." Female number 4. Although his role is not very large, it plays an important role in the whole drama. It is not easy to find an actor who fits the role. Although she doesn't have a good impression of Lin Swifei, the fragile little white flower's appearance and acting skills are undoubtedly quite suitable for this role. Now I can only hope that this matter will be kept secret during the filming and before the broadcast is completed. After the words fell, the elevator door opened and Zhang Lingzi coughed lightly when she saw the people standing in the elevator. Wei Minmin, who was about to say more, quickly shut her mouth. The two pairs of eyes glanced at Lin Swifei, who looked a little anxious in the elevator, and then looked away. Until she saw Lin Swifei returning to her room, Wei Minmin lost her previous composure and scratched her head. "Shouldn't she have heard what I just said in front of the elevator?" "Probably not, I was so quiet." Zhang Lingzi thought she could take the opportunity to warn this girl about her big mouth. "In the future, I will only say something in my own room, otherwise it will be like today." Wei Minmin drooped her ears. "I don't dare anymore." Shimin was the first one besides Zhang Lingzi and Wei Minmin to notice that something was wrong with Lin Swifei. To say that when the script was enrolled yesterday, Lin Suejin just walked from time to time, so today is the soul. She doubted whether this girl had listened to the conversation between director Wei and Zhang Lingzi. "Ahem, I want to announce two things next." Wei Xiao paused here and glanced at everyone present. "The first is that our script will have a relatively big change. You will receive it in 2 days. The script after the changes." After saying this, everyone's eyes moved away from him and looked at the figure sitting in the first place on the left. After these 2 days of class experience, they have reason to believe that Zhang Lingzi definitely accounts for a large part of the reason for the changes in the crew. But being able to let the director make this decision, everyone couldn't help but feel a little complicated. Also, after research and discussion, the drama team is ready to adopt Zhang Lingzi's opinion and move Qing Yuan's role from the character actor group to the main actor group, and will add some scenes to the revised script as appropriate. Let's read it around. Tomorrow there will be one more member in the hall.